Hey everyone, Kevin Lewis here with Home Life Benchmark Realty, and today I want to talk to you about 7 most common questions that I get asked by first-time home buyers. Buying your first home is an extremely exciting part of your life, but with that excitement certainly comes some nervousness and definitely the chance to be a little overwhelmed by things. Today's video, I want to explain 7 of the most common questions that I get asked by my first-time home buyers, and I work with first-time buyers on quite a regular basis, so getting these questions coming quite often from me, and I've taken a look at over the years, and these are the 7 most common ones. You're certainly going to have more than this when it comes time for you to purchase your home, but let's touch on these ones for now. The first question that I typically get asked is, what do I do to get started? Well, you're on to a good start by watching this video here and getting an understanding of the whole process. Check out my buyer's guide with the link below. That's going to walk you through the 6 step-by-step process that it takes to go from very beginning in order to get through to the end of purchasing your home. First step that you want to do is talk to a realtor or a mortgage professional. If you talk to a realtor first, they're going to tell you to go talk to a mortgage professional as well. The reason you have to talk to a mortgage professional is we need to get what's called a mortgage pre-approval. Chances are for your first home, you're going to need to borrow some money from the bank. The bank's only going to allow you to borrow as much money as they're comfortable giving you. This is what the pre-approval is all about, and it's going to set forward a budget that we can work with in order to get you into the home that you want to be in. It's never fun to be looking at homes that are way out of your price range and have all this excitement and ideas built up that you're going to buy this house here or that house there, only to go get pre-approved and find out that you can only afford half of that. So let's save the hassle and the stress and go and get pre-approved as soon as possible. When I say get pre-approved, I don't mean go onto the websites and check out what the online tool is going to pre-approve you for. Talk to a mortgage professional. Talk to somebody in the know who works in the industry on a daily basis and is going to get you a great mortgage product, as well as know the nuances of how to maybe get you a little bit more money that you can access for the borrowing purposes. I have a couple great mortgage professionals that I would be happy to refer you to. Just get in touch and ask me. The second question I often get asked is, how much does it cost to work with a buyer's agent? This is one of my favorite questions because the answer is actually free. Basically, the way a transaction typically will work is the seller will pay the listing brokerage a set amount of commission. The listing brokerage then takes X amount of dollars and offers that up to any buying brokerages that bring a buyer to that property. So you're probably thinking right now, well, if there's a commission sitting out there just waiting for my buyer's agent, why don't I skip working with the buyer's agent? Well, the long and short of it is, the selling agent is probably not going to offer to discount any of that because they still have to do double the work now because you're not working with an agent who's representing you. The other side of that, of course, is that we do no longer have dual agency, which means that if you're going into a transaction unrepresented without having your own realtor, you have nobody looking out for your best interest. When we're talking about $500,000 here, you probably want somebody looking out for you who knows the ins and outs of the industry, not to mention can help you with negotiations, can help you find problems with a property and steer you away from some bad properties that you might not otherwise see. We're going to do all sorts of different things for you to help you get into the proper place, and the amount of commission that we're actually getting paid compared to the purchase price and the amount that you're saving or that you think you'll be saving at the end of it all is pretty minimal. I definitely recommend you work with a real estate professional, especially as a first-time home buyer. The only times that I typically will see people that are comfortable working without an agent are somebody who's purchased and sold so many homes in their lifetime, or they do it for a living, not as a realtor, but as a developer. Then maybe it might make sense to forego using a realtor. But for everybody else, I highly recommend you get yourself a great agent. Third question I often get asked is, what's the difference between a deposit and a down payment? Are they the same thing? Are they different? Well, the long and short of it is they can be the same thing, yet they are different. Oftentimes a deposit becomes a part of your down payment. The down payment is the amount of money that you're putting down that the bank is not loaning you to go with the purchase. You have to put down minimum 5% on standard properties to get what's called an insured mortgage. You can read more about an insured mortgage or ask me about it. And that goes up to 20%. Once you're 20% down payment or more, you're doing traditional financing where you're just going to be going through the bank. You won't have to pay any mortgage insurance or anything, but you're putting up more money up front. Now, the deposit is the amount of money you put once you have a firm offer. A firm offer means that you've made an offer on a house, you like what you see, but you want to do some double checking. So you're going to get an inspection. You're going to check that the bank's going to finance you. You want to look over the property disclosure statement and make sure that there's nothing secret hitting on title, and you want to check that you can get insurance on the property. After we've fulfilled all of these, then you feel that you're going to go ahead and purchase this property. We put forward what we call a deposit. A typical deposit in British Columbia is approximately 5%, but there's no rule to say that you cannot go less, and you can certainly go higher. As the higher you go in your deposit, the stronger your offer will look. Once it comes down time to close, complete on the property, a couple days before you take possession of it, that deposit is then most likely going to become a part of your down payment that you're paying to the bank and paying to make the property transfer into your name. Fourth question I often get asked is about leasehold properties. You're scrolling through the MLS and you're going to come across a couple of homes that just seem way too cheap for what they are compared to the rest of the homes out there. 9 times out of 10, these are leasehold properties. The difference between a leasehold and a freehold is, in a leasehold, you get to own the buildings and everything in the buildings, the plumbing systems, the pipes, the electrical, the same as you would in a freehold. The difference is you don't own any of the land. If you're thinking, well, in a strata you don't own any of the land, that's actually not true. In a strata, a freehold strata situation, you and all the other owners in that strata actually own the land that the building is on. In a freehold situation, you can have freeholds in single-family homes as well as multifamily homes, where you're going to have the situation, like I said, you own the building, you own everything in the walls, but the land that that building is on is owned by somebody else. Typically, this is going to be the Crown, meaning the government, British Columbia, or there's several native reserve lands that have leasehold properties on them. The downside to going with a leasehold is that these leases are up for negotiation often every 15 years. When it comes time to renegotiate, that may mean that you're paying more rent for renting the land that it's on rather than owning the land that comes with a freehold property. The only times that I might recommend a leasehold is for somebody who's looking to retire and they simply can't afford the home that they want to retire into, but a leasehold that is there as an option. And the problem with that is the appreciation in a leasehold property is just not there the same that it is for freehold. If you're looking to buy a leasehold for your first home, you might only see that go up about 3-4% over the next 5 years, whereas the rest of the market that you want to get into for your second home has gone up 10%, leaving you behind. We don't want to put you into that situation, so we definitely recommend that you go with a freehold for your first home over a leasehold. Another question I often get asked is, I can't afford the home that I'd love to be in, what should I do? Well, there's a few different choices you can make here. I often like to recommend that you get into the market as soon as you can afford to if your goal is to own a home. The reason for that is when the market continues to go up and you're not getting in the market, if you're saving up for a down payment while you're paying rent and for all your other life expenses, it's going to be very, very difficult to save up a big enough down payment for the home that you want to live in. Whereas if you can make some sacrifices and get into a smaller home, even if you don't end up living in that home and you have to rent it out, you're still going to build the equity on that property, and the equity is going to keep up with the rest of the market while you save your own money for a down payment for the next home. Getting into the market now keeps you up to speed with the increases that happen in the market. If you're paying your mortgage down, then you're not paying rent to anybody. If you need a bigger home than you can afford, you can rent a home, buy a home and rent it out, become a landlord, and somebody else is paying your mortgage down instead of you paying somebody else's mortgage alone. Best situation, of course, is that you live in the home that is less than what you really would like to have for some time. You build up that equity, sell that home, and get into the home that you really desire. The sixth question that I often get asked is, what about closing costs? That's great that we've talked about the purchase price and the deposit and the down payment and all this, but how much is it going to cost me at the end when it comes time to close on the deal? Well, that's a great question, and really it varies from purchase to purchase. As a first-time home buyer, you're going to most likely, if you're buying under $500,000, save the property transfer tax. Property transfer tax can add up quite quickly, and any savings is good savings. Another cost that you're going to have, of course, is the legal fees, the conveyancing fees that come with the transfer. We always need to hire a lawyer or a notary in order to transfer the title from the previous owner's name into your name. There's definitely cost involved with that, along with registering the property and getting it title into your name, and the lawyers and notaries don't work for free. Another cost is, of course, the disbursements, and this means that if you're buying a home that's completion date is on the 16th of a month, and you're buying into a strata, well, there's going to be just what's called disbursements. If the strata payment has been made for the first of the month already, that owner doesn't want to pay for 14 days that you're going to be living in it. So these adjustments are made at the notary's office, and they're discounted in order to line up with the possession date, which is also called the adjustment date. This goes for property taxes, strata fees, all sorts of things, anything that you're going to be paying on a regular basis through the home itself. As I said, these fees are going to vary from purchase to purchase. Typically, you're going to be looking at about 2.5% of the purchase price for closing costs. However, if you're going to be going with the first-time homebuyers grant, you're going to be significantly less than that, as the lawyer's fees will be approximately a little over $1,000, and your disbursements is going to be quite small, considering that you're going to be under $500,000. It's going to be a couple $1,000s one way or the other, depending on whether the taxes were paid or whether the strata was prepaid for a year or for a month or whatever the situation is. Overall, your closing costs are likely to be less than 1% on your first home. Another common question that I get asked is, should I buy a fixer-upper? As I come from a construction background myself, I certainly understand this question. Now, the problem comes with the fact that despite you can be great with your hands and do all the labor yourself, you're still going to have to pay for the materials. Maybe at the end of it, if you're buying a $350,000 condo that has never been renovated, you might be able to save $20,000, $25,000 on it and do the work yourself for $18,000 and come out a couple $1,000s short. And of course, you get to do the renovations the way that you want them to be. If you're looking to save $50,000 over the grand scheme of things, well, the demand is just far too high in our market in order to save money by getting yourself a fixer-upper. Let's take, for example, two homes built in the mid-70s, side by side, very much the exact same lot. You've got home A has been fully renovated by the family that lives there, with the plans that they were going to live there for the rest of their lives, and something came up that they decided to move anyways, and they've got about $200,000 worth of renovations in that home. Then you move over to home B that has, maybe in the mid-90s, they did a partial renovation and updated the kitchen a little bit, and since then they put some paint on the walls and some carpet, but overall the home needs almost an entire overhaul in order to be up to what we would call today's standards. The difference is that home A has over $200,000 worth of renovations in it, and it's absolutely gorgeous home. It's not going to sell for $200,000 more than home B is, not even close. You might get it maybe $100,000, maybe $150,000 more, but at the end of the day, if your plan is to buy that home B and bring it up to the condition of home A, 99 out of 100 times it's going to cost you far more money to do so than it would just to buy option A. I hope these questions have been informative for you, and like I said, I know you're going to have way more than just these 7 questions, so feel free to get in touch with me. It's never too early to start planning. If your plan is to not buy a home for 2-3 years, give me a call today and we can still sit down, talk, and start a plan to get you into a home. Give me a call, 604-218-5635, or email me at kevin@kevinlewis.com. I look forward to hearing from you soon.